I launched RetireMentorship Podcast back in January of 2021. Since then, I've published episodes nearly every week and expanded the platform to other mediums. And after 3.5 years, it's time to make a change. Introducing RetireMentorship 4.0. Welcome to RetireMentorship. I'm your host, Freeman Lindy. I'm the co-founder of Lacrosse Financial Planning, a certified financial planner, a licensed tax expert and preparer, and the author of 3D Retirement Income. I've helped dozens of clients retire successfully and stay successfully retired. I do that by working one-on-one with them through my financial planning firm and teaching and reinforcing strategies through this YouTube channel and podcast. If you're new, this is a great place to start to see what we're all about. And if you're a loyal listener, then we have some important updates to share on this podcast. First, the mission of RetireMentorship. I started RetireMentorship to communicate important principles and reminders to my clients and a greater audience. Its purpose is to drive its 3-part mission. Number 1, to increase your knowledge of retirement, tax, and financial planning. Number 2, to deepen your belief in financial planning and wise investment behavior. And number 3, to inspire you to act on your financial plan and achieve your dreams. That mission has stayed the same for 3.5 years. Knowledge is power. You can't act rightly or achieve efficiently without knowing what to do and how to do it. But if knowledge were enough, we'd all be billionaires with six-pack abs. We must act on that knowledge, incorporate those strategies into our lives, and execute the money-making and tax-saving opportunities we learn about. I want to inspire that action. I personally am inspired by passionate preaching on a topic. And while RetireMentorship may get too preachy for some, it's how I'm inspired, and so it's how I will continue to try to inspire others. The missing link between knowledge and action is belief. We do not act on what we know, we act on what we believe deep down. And repetition is the key to transforming that knowledge into belief. So we may get repetitive over time on this podcast. It's on purpose, and it has a purpose. A little history of RetireMentorship. It started as a blog and a podcast back in January of 2021. Each episode had a podcast and a corresponding blog. You can always find the blog posts in the show notes of the podcast or by directly typing that number in behind the website. For example, this is episode 175, so if you go to retirementorship.com/175, you will find it. Back then, I did everything myself. I built the website, wrote the content, recorded the podcast, did some editing, and published it to all the platforms. As my firm, Lacrosse Financial Planning, grew, I was able to hire help and support the back end. Now I create the content, but thankfully other people do the pre- and publishing work. I published 3D Retirement Income in the spring of 2022, which allowed us to supplement the podcast and create a free offering. You can still get that book for free by becoming a Retire member. Which leads us to RetireMentorship 2.0. In the fall of 2022, we launched RetireMentorship, giving additional access and content to those who wanted to join the community for free. We launched a weekly email with a simple sketch and short memo. This became very popular among some, and I get better feedback on the short emails than I do from the long podcasts. We also began video recording recording the podcast audio and just posting that to YouTube. At this point, we haven't done much with it other than record and post. We also created a series of 4 interactive workshops with a workbook to follow, and those are more deep dive, hour-long workshops, and we've got several of them, right? We've got investing before and after retirement, maximizing Social Security, reducing taxes in retirement, and estate planning essentials. So if you want a deep dive, those are things you can explore. We've received tremendous feedback from this content, which pushed us to want to produce even more. Hence, RetireMentorship 3.0. Not everyone wants to get more emails, and many of us already have too much digital content, and so that inspired us to repackage our weekly emails as RetireMentorship Magazine in the spring of 2023. Each quarter, we send out a magazine containing the best sketches and memos as a weekly email. It usually contains a bit of original content as well. The vast majority of the magazines out there, right, are 50 to 70% ads. And so we remain committed to keeping RetireMentorship Magazine ad-free, other than one ad for Lacrosse Financial Planning. It's my magazine, it's my firm, I can advertise it. The magazine gives folks some simple, tangible to read for a medium, for driving home or doing chores, and just a great medium for that. Retire Mentorship has also pivoted its offering, right? So now it offers a 3D retirement income. It's a hardcover, paperback, e-reader, or audio. You can get the quarterly magazine and the weekly sketch and memo email. All this content supplements the main Retire Mentorship episodes, which premiere each week in podcasts and video and blog formats. It's all absolutely 100% free, which now comes to our latest change, which we are calling Retire Mentorship 4.0. So here's the problem, right? Lacrosse Financial Planning, my firm, has continued to grow at rapid rates. We're hiring more folks to help with the ever-increasing families of clients that we are helping. And people are drawn right to our comprehensive approach, our philosophies, our strategies. And as I get pulled in more and more directions, I find that the quality of what we publish is suffering. If you follow the podcast, you'll notice that lately we've been just reposting episodes or publishing appearances I had on other podcasts. And so to maintain this weekly publishing cadence, we've kind of dropped the quality to maintain the quantity. And I don't want to do that. I'm committed to the weekly email. I get better feedback on that than on the podcast, and I'm committed to those who have joined to produce that content. Plus, short form, 800-word emails are easier to produce consistently than these long form podcasts and videos. However, again, not everyone wants more emails. Many would simply miss those emails as they get lost in the slew of junk mail we already get. And I have many local loyal podcast followers and clients who tune in regularly. I'm a big audio consumer, and I listen to podcasts and audiobooks daily, and I dislike email. So we have found the solution to maintain the multiple media approach that fits each person according to their preference. That is Retire Mentorship 4.0. So we're going to have a new cadence. Starting here in July 2024, we are going to shift to publishing at this new cadence. Retire Mentorship, our flagship public podcast, video, and blog, will pivot from weekly publishing that we've done for 3.5 years to monthly. A new long-form podcast, video, and blog will be published on the third Thursday of each month. This is the episode for July, so there won't be one next week. The next one will be published in August. This will allow us to focus on high-quality content instead of high-quantity content. We'll also have the Retire Membership podcast. We're announcing that today. This weekly podcast will be for Retire members only and will be the weekly sketch and memo email in podcast form. Members will get a link to set up the podcast in Apple Podcasts or YouTube Music, and then weekly episodes will automatically appear in your podcast app just like any other podcast. No need to find the email from me in your 6,385 unread emails. This will allow podcast listeners to keep getting weekly content from us, and perhaps some of you have enjoyed the weekly email but don't consistently read it because of all the issues you have with email. This will always make sure you have a chance to read it while driving, doing chores, and as always, to stay the course. We'll also do some upgrades to our flagship Retire Mentorship podcast. We'll be publishing the public podcast weekly, and while the membership memo will be in podcast and email forms only, our public episodes will have now high quality blog, podcast, and video. Speaking of higher quality, the YouTube channel will now feature episodes in glorious 4K. The videos will also have chapter markers and more graphics and visuals and be more engaging overall. We'll be able to teach and explain concepts that are difficult to explain over email and audio. So we're excited to announce this upcoming upgrade, which is the Retire Mentorship Vodcast. All episodes going forward, and maybe even some going backwards, will now be available in video format right in your podcast player. This will allow you to seamlessly switch between audio and video in your mobile or desktop app. If you listen to this on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or on the YouTube Music app, you need to go search for Retire Mentorship Vodcast and subscribe to that podcast instead. And then you'll be able to seamlessly do video or audio. And if you're one of my faithful iHeart listeners, then unfortunately iHeartRadio does not support video podcasts, and so you will only have the audio feed. A lot of the content is suited for audio. It's mostly just me monologuing. Again, I love audiobooks, podcasts, sermons, so folks, monologuing is my jam. But I don't want to sit in front of a screen to hear it. I want to go listen to it on the go. And that's the beauty of podcasts, right? But in the past, I've had graphics and discuss things, and I've had to awkwardly say, hey, if you're listening, then you can go to the blog or find this episode on YouTube to see what I'm talking about. Now, you'll be able to seamlessly switch to the vodcast to see the visuals, and then put your phone back in your pocket for audio-only podcasting on the go as you go about your day. We're really excited to bring this feature to you and to get you what you need where you need it. The RetireMentorship Line-Up now looks like this, right? You have a weekly member email or podcast delivered right to your email or podcast app. A monthly public blog and vodcast available anywhere podcasts are published. A quarterly physical magazine shipped right to your door. And books, workshops, and flowcharts and more produced at random intervals. And that's a lot of content to increase your knowledge, build your belief, and inspire you to act, and of course, to stay the course. Let us know what you think. If you're a client, you can just email me your thoughts. You have my email. And if you're not a client yet, then email us at questions@retirementorship.com. We're excited to bring you better content in better ways, and we'll see all of you Retire members on Tuesday and the rest of you on the third Thursday of each month. Cheers.